Season 2 of Jackie Chan Adventures is arguably the weirdest yet most iconic season, so check out my video on Season 1 if you haven't already, and let's just get into the first episode of Season 2. Episode 1. We see Shendu as a spirit back in the Netherworld with all of his demon siblings who are angered that Shendu never tried to save them when he was restored to his original form. We see them all attack Shendu, and in his desperation, Shendu mentions one last plan he has to restore power to him and his demon siblings, by using Jackie Chan as his new vessel. Back in the regular world, we see Toru works for Uncle now and refers to him as Sensei, while Hawk Fu replaces Toru as the leader of the Dark Hand Enforcers. We even see this change in the theme song, where Jackie goes from punching Toru to punching Hawk Fu, which is pretty funny. The Dark Hand had all the talismans from the chaos and destruction of the palace at the end of Season 1, and uses these new powers to recoup their financial investments by robbing a bank. Jackie learns his time with Section 13 isn't finished yet, and reluctantly joins to help fight the Dark Hand once more. Jackie follows the runaway truck, and Jade follows along with a jetpack she took from Section 13, and we get a pretty chaotic fight since the villains have all the talismans and they don't exactly use them perfectly. In this fight, we see Valmont kick Jackie off a cliff, ironically saving him because as this was happening, Shendu arrives and tries to take over Jackie's body, but accidentally takes over Valmont's as a result. Valmont and Shendu sharing the same body is pretty funny, because Valmont isn't always aware of the change in his personality. Like, Shendu tells the enforcers to just leave the money and get in the truck, but Valmont's like, "Are you crazy? What do you think we came here for? Get the money." So yeah, everyone's just pretty confused. Back at Uncle's house, we see Toru making Jade's bed, kinda like he's a maid here, and the big gentle giant will never not be funny to me. He acts as Jade's guardian throughout the season, and they have such a funny dynamic, because Jade's a little wild, and Toru's just this giant beast who has a soft spot, as we'll see. So Valmont / Shendu walks into the antique shop, knocking out Toru and Uncle, and running off with one of Uncle's books. We don't know why he did this, but they have bigger problems at hand when the Shadowkan show up, because these ninjas indicate the return of Shendu. So the episode ends with the ninjas surrounding and attacking Jackie, so we'll have to see next episode how they get out of this one. But first, you already know what time it is, it's Jackie's question of the day. Jackie's question here is, if you could have any talisman, what would it be? I'd assume he'd choose immortality, but he gives the most non-answers, saying he'd want all of them to save the world. But I guess the only power he mentioned specifically is the power to fly, so I'll answer for Jackie and say he wants the Rooster Talisman to fly. So let's see how this plays out in the next episode. I'm just gonna refer to these episodes as 1, 2, and 3, even though that's not their order in Season 2, so just refer back to this picture if you want to know the order I'm going in, and this is the order of the season on Internet Archive, which I also confirmed with some helpful people online, so I really appreciate the help, and I just wanted to be transparent about how I'm gonna cover this today. So Jackie and Captain Black slide down a flag to escape the Shadowkan, but the ninjas catch up immediately. Fortunately, Uncle is here to recite the chi spell he used last season to exorcise Shendu from Jade's body, and gets rid of all the shadow ninjas here. I never had any idea what Uncle was saying here, but according to the wiki, it means spirits, demons, ghosts, monsters, quickly leave. Or more liberally, I don't know if this is actually liberally or literally, evil demons and malevolent spirits, be gone. Uncle doesn't know what Shendu's motive is until they identify which book he stole, and considering there's thousands of books here, it'll take a long time to figure out what's actually going on. Captain Black says the Dark Hand matters are being assigned to Section 12 now, and that he can't assist any further, in part due to the skepticism of his supervisors. So Jade gets the idea to call in reinforcements, which I love, because we see a newly assembled squad of some iconic characters from Season 1. First we got El Toro Fuerte, the Mexican wrestler from last season, and Viper, the thieving spy who stole the pink puma from the museum. When they show up, El Toro and El Toru start fighting because El Toro assumes Toru's still on the side of evil, which is a pretty reasonable assumption. Uncle assumes El Toro is a thief because of his mask, even though Viper is actually the thief of this group. And Jade reveals she assembled the Chantastic 5, and she even has these J-Team jackets, which do go kinda hard. They learn the book Shendu stole is about ancient artifacts in Tibet, so Jackie and the new villain group are both pursuing the Panku box, a magical box that sealed away Shendu and his demon siblings. This was done by the 8 Immortals, these legendary warriors who defeated Shendu and his siblings and sent them to the Netherworld they reside in today. The lodge the three teams stay in for the night just so happens to be where the Dark Hand is staying, and I don't know what's more surprising, that Ratso sleeps with a teddy bear or that Ratso sleeps in a suit. I think it's gotta be the suit, cause last season we see he collects Gnome Cob toys, which some comments actually pointed out this is Pokemon or Pokemong backwards, but I love how Ratso's portrayed as as kind of a dorky, innocent guy who's kind of like a little kid at heart. Jackie sneaks in and steals the talismans, but Viper tries to steal them too, and their argument causes the villains to wake up and take the talismans back, beating everyone up. This causes the J-Team to all fight among themselves, like they accuse Jackie of not being a team player for trying to take all the talismans, and Uncle reminds them the talismans aren't important, but of all the people, El Toro is the one to say they are important, which is interesting because half of El Toro's shtick last season was his honor and inner strength without the talismans. But if I was that muscular and got beat up by these three clowns, I'd probably say yeah, the talismans are important. Jade and Paco, the super fan of El Toro, run off while everyone bickers, and Jade swings in to steal the box, but the villains easily just transport them back. They're about to exterminate these pests once and for all, but Jade says Jackie will save them, which causes yet another argument between Jade and Paco of whether El Toro or Jackie is better and who will save them. The villains are so distracted by this, it gives time for the J-Team to return, and I love this team, like it's so cool to actually have this squad pull up. I think it's part of why I love similar shows like Shaolin Showdown, just something about seeing a team arrive is kinda badass. Ratso tries to use super speed and invisibility and just runs into a wall. Xiao tries to use the Heat Beam Eye Blast, which I should quickly mention, because the pig talisman was questioned quite a bit for why the heck does a pig give laser eyes, and a couple comments mentioned the old saying in a pig's eye, according to Merriam-Webster, is a phrase used to express strong disagreement. Quote, "You want me to apologize to him? In a pig's eye," end quote. And speaking of apologizing and questioning talismans, I have one more thing I need to make a statement on. I really didn't want to have to make this video. It's come to my attention I said something really insensitive. I said that I didn't know why the sheep talisman made you astral project. And, you know, it really didn't come to my attention that you sleep to astral project and you count sheep to sleep. I thought maybe it had something to do with the quality of sheep and like, I don't know, they sleep or astral project or something. But I want to get better and I'm really sorry that I did that. Chip, do you have anything you want to say? Do you have anything you want to say about the dog talisman? No? You have to be in the apology video. I have to garner sympathy. Okay, so we see Chow use the heat beam, breaking his cool glasses, which is pretty tragic. Like, not only are they really cool, but they're actually prescription glasses too. We see Hawk Fu and Toru fight, and Hawk Fu uses the sheep talisman, causing him to astral project, and Toru just body slams Hawk Fu's incapacitated body. Like, that looks so painful. That's how you break your ribs. The J-Team successfully defeats the Enforcers, getting all the talismans back, and we learn from Uncle that there was 8 demon sorcerers, and they were defeated by the 8 immortals sealed away in the Panku box. So Shendu ends up with a box that'll allow him to release the other demons, and the J-Team realizes their work together isn't finished. Uncle says he won't accept help from a thief, and El Toro explains once again, Viper's the thief, he's the wrestler. So we end the 2-episode mini-arc with the J-Team pursuing Shendu to prevent him from releasing the other 7 demon sorcerers, and now that they have all the talismans back, I'm curious to see how they'll fight next episode, and how they'll make the villains powerful again. You kinda gotta bring the demons out here, because with no talismans and the J-Team assembled, the villains don't really stand much of a chance anymore. Jackie's question of the day here is, does he watch Jackie Chan Adventures? And he says he does because he wants to make sure it's a good show for both him and the kids. Jackie also says he watches his own movies too to ensure they're of the quality he wants to perform at, even though he isn't really involved much with the series. Like, he doesn't voice Jackie here or anything. I couldn't find much online of whether Jackie contributed to the show much or was just used more as the endorsement, so let's move on to episode 3. Episode 3. This episode starts with the villains at their hideout trying to open the magical box, and it turns out to be a puzzle map that projects the location of the first portal. They see the mountain demon should be found in Tokyo according to the projection, so the Dark Hand travels to solve the riddle and find the demon portal. Back at home, Uncle talks about his new Chi apprentice, saying Toru will be a great fit. Jade is upset at this and begins studying her Chi spells, not only duplicating a vase, but when Jackie tells Jade to stay home as he pursues the Dark Hand, she decides to duplicate herself to stay home while she follows Jackie. To solve the riddle of what runs but doesn't walk, Ratso goes to investigate this toy mascot that runs on batteries and has a mouth but doesn't talk. Which is pretty funny, but what's even funnier is the reveal that both Jades are here in Tokyo. Like, isn't it obvious Aquilina Jane would never stay at home and do her homework when there's a potential adventure to go on? One thing I didn't really mention last season is Uncle's catchphrase of "one more thing," and they play it up a lot more this season, which is pretty funny. Like back at the antique shop, Uncle sees the vase Jade duplicated and is upset because it's no longer one of a kind, and I love this moment.
My one-of-a-kind vase is no longer one of a kind! One more thing!
So I guess this means Jade will also duplicate, and I can't wait to see how this plays out. Jackie realizes the riddle must be referring to a river which runs and never walks, and has a mouth but doesn't talk, and we see Jade multiply again before his very eyes. Not only that, but there's a closet full of at least a dozen Jades. The OG Jade asks to come with Jackie, who says no, and like, do I even need to mention this part? You already know they're gonna pull up with 20 Jades. So the Dark Hand follows Jackie and unleashes the mountain demon, Shendu's sister, who tries to eat Jackie, but all the Jades show up and just start beating everyone up. There's seriously over 80 Jades I can count in this shot alone, and yeah, they're not crazy high quality or animation, but it's such a cool, ambitious scene to say, hey, just animate 100 Jades beating up this mountain demon. I think it's pretty awesome. Uncle shows up with a chi spell, but sealing these demons away requires a symbol associated with the legendary warrior that originally sealed the demon away. In this case, the chi spell requires the beating of a drum, and we see the mountain demon sucked back into the portal, sealing her away once more and saving the day. We still have the problem of all the Jades multiplying, and Toru says they need to find the original Jade because in her haste she never added a finish to the duplication spell. The only issue is they need to find the original Jade, which is actually easier than I thought it would be.
Okay, whoever cast the spell in the first place is grounded with no TV for a year.
She did it! Tattletales.
So overall, it's a cool episode. I like how we're establishing these new, bigger, badder villains they'll have to fight, and this episode has a lot of funny moments with the duplicating Jades, and seeing them all on screen just gave an amazing sense of scale and is just really cool to see. The question today is if Jackie has ever refused to do a stunt, and Jackie says he likes to do stunts like flying off a roof onto a car and then opening up the car and getting inside, and he also likes to help design stunts, but he said he won't jump over the Grand Canyon or anything. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say no one's ever asked Jackie to jump over the Grand Canyon, so I would have liked to have known if there was more specific stunts Jackie's refused to do, but I guess it could kind of be throwing a director under the bus if he just aired that out here, so I guess this is kind of just a non-answer, so let's just move on. Episode 4 follows the Wind Demon, whose portal is in a large penitentiary. So the villain's plan is to break into prison, but instead of breaking in, they could be a little more subtle and they get the idea to get arrested instead. The Dark Hand robs a bank, immediately surrendering when Section 13 shows up, which confuses everyone, but Section 13 has reason to believe this is some kind of inside job and gets Jackie to go undercover as Chance Jackson to see what they're doing.
Say ah!
Jackie Chan, meet Chance Jackson, master criminal.
So Jackie, I mean Chance, makes friends with the villains, and we see Hak Fu bring the magical Panku box in with other supplies for the prisoners. Chance runs off with the box, but accidentally opens the portal that allows the Demon of Wind to be set free. This demon can shapeshift to blend in with the other humans, so now we have the Dark Hand blending in as prisoners, or I guess they're actually prisoners, but they're not here for reals, you know. Jackie's undercover as Chance, and the Wind Demon, Xiao Feng, pretending to be a prisoner. Jackie gets his disguise ripped off when the Dark Hand holds a food fight in order to be thrown into solitary confinement where they can meet up with Valmont/Shendu. But before they can confront Jackie and Ratzo's feelings of betrayment, Toru runs in and rescues Jackie using a combination of powers of invisibility, super speed, and levitation. It's kind of funny, Jackie tries to break back into jail to prevent the Wind Demon from regaining his powers, but the guards don't recognize him. Like, how hard is it to get yourself arrested? Jade uses the Dragon Talisman to break her and Jackie in, and Jackie jumps down to the underground tunnels below the prison, telling Jade to stay here. We get a really funny subversion to the trope of Jackie telling Jade to wait behind, cause Jade's like, you're just gonna leave me alone in a prison? So he takes her along for a change. Uncle returns to the prison with the materials he collected for the new chi spell, like this fan he stole from an old lady, and they all work together to kick the Dark Hand grunts out of prison, reciting the spell and fanning Xiao Feng back into the portal, sealing it away. The episode ends with Jackie, or should I say Jackson, getting arrested when the guards realize his prisoner number lines up to when he was pleading to be let back in earlier. Overall, Overall, it's a pretty funny episode. I think an undercover prisoner episode makes for a great premise, and the location and overall tension made for a really fun episode. The question of the day is, what animal would Jackie be? And Jackie says he'd be an eagle because you can fly and be free, not being chased by anyone, and I can't really understand if he said he had a pet eagle here. And I looked it up, and while I couldn't find anything about Jackie owning an eagle, I can confirm he has 2 golden retrievers now that he's a bit older. Last season he mentioned he had a dog he hadn't seen in 6 months, and when he returned the dog bit him, which is kinda suspicious among many of Jackie's controversies I don't want to ignore or sweep under the rug, like his estranged relationship with his children, but at least these dogs are cute, I guess, so let's just move on. In episode 5, the next demon portal is in Los Angeles, and Jade wants to tag along because Raffaello Di Capizio, this assumed parody of Leonardo DiCaprio, will be attending the Chinese theater footprint ceremony.
I guess you have never heard of John Wayne.
Ah, the Duke. Saddle up, Pilgrim.
So Toru and Jade go to the Wax Museum, and as Toru looks at photos of John Wayne to bring back to Uncle, Jade runs off and steals a demon portal map from the Dark Hand Grunt who just happened to be walking by. They steal it back, but Jade happens to get a photo of the map when she ran off into a photo booth, and we see Jackie now get into a fight with this red samurai guy. This samurai ends up being an actor on a movie set who is flying at Jackie using wires as part of a stunt he was doing, and the director gives Jade his card because he wants to make Jackie a star. Jackie's obviously disinterested as he's only interested in stopping the demon portals, but it turns out the demon portal is in the studio lot, so Jade works her magic as an agent, no pun intended, and gets Jackie into the studio, and it's all a bit tongue-in-cheek since we know Jackie's actually a movie star IRL and stuff, and he does do his own stunts, like the title of the episode. Jackie and the Dark Hand get into a fight on the movie set, and it's pretty fun, continuing the homage to seeing Jackie do these acrobatics on movie sets. In the chaos of the fight, the portal opens, revealing the Demon of Thunder, Changzhu, and Jackie survives a thunder blast because of this rubber Godzilla costume he put on. So the Dark Hand drives around, and they took Changzhu's original palace and put up a parking lot, you know, like the song. And the Thunder Demon decides that Chinese theater Raphael is holding his footprint ceremony at will suffice as his new palace. And we get a pretty interesting dynamic here where a demon is actually exposed to the general public. But this is Hollywood, so Jade can convince everyone this is some kind of animatronic or something. As usual, Uncle needs to get ingredients, so they send Uncle and Toru off in a taxi, and Jackie tells Jade not to follow, and even Uncle says, why do you even bother at this point? They eventually use the chi spell to seal away the Thunder Demon, and overall the combat isn't as interesting as the other episodes to me, but I think the location of this episode and the pop culture references throughout made this as interesting as the previous episodes so far to me. The episode ends with Jackie ruining his chances of being a Hollywood star by ruining the footprint ceremony and the agent's car, and Jackie Chan and his crew walk off, satisfied with their work sealing away the Thunder Demon, and they're in the mood for Mexican food because the chi spell required castanets. You know, those Spanish clackers. And despite being in Chinatown, getting Mexican food won't be an issue because they're in Hollywood. The question of the day is if Jackie has met anyone famous. Jackie said he was in the green room at the Oscars and saw John Travolta, Tom Hanks, Sidney Poitier, but someone came up asking to shake his hand, and it was arguably the funniest person ever, Robin Williams. I did some research to see if Robin and Jackie ever really did anything together, and while they didn't really, I found an interview from about a decade after this episode when Jackie Chan was asked about Robin Williams' passing in 2014. The story Jackie tells is very similar, even mentioning the same celebrities he saw there, but what Jackie reveals further in this interview is that he was shy and his English wasn't very good at the time, but Robin was so vibrant and talkative he didn't really need to say much. Jackie even asked to get a signed photo from Robin Williams that he still has in his office. So this was such a sweet detail, and a bittersweet story I may have never learned without this question of the day. So let's move on. Episode 6 starts with Jackie stealing this book from a giant library that'll help Uncle learn more about the demons. Jackie's attacked by the Shadow Khan again, and the combat looks great here. I think this episode feels like we're finally getting back to the classic combat and choreography I loved from the first season. At school, Jade is jealous her friend claims to have a tattoo, so she goes home and traces over this symbol on the book Jackie stole, using a marker and water to transfer it onto her leg. But when Jade goes back to school, we see it doesn't wash off her leg, showing the other kids the tattoo is quote-unquote real. It turns out the tattoo is staying on because it's actually an evil seal that she'll need to get removed, so the enforcers of the Dark Hand run into the antique shop, but Jade runs off with the book they're trying to steal, but right before Hawk Fu apprehends Jade, the seal on her leg activates, summoning the Shadow Khan, who beat Hawk Fu up. None of the Dark Hand believes the ninjas attacked him though, and Shendu reminds him the Shadow Ninjas only worked for him. Despite this, Shendu can no longer summon them at will, so Jade gets ready for school the next morning, and we see the Shadow Khan assist her, bringing her toast and cereal and stuff, which is pretty funny. And later when Jade notices the Dark Hand stole the book from Uncle while pretending to be wealthy art collectors, Jade summons the Shadow Khan once more to beat up the enforcers, well, specifically to give them spankings, but we don't need to talk about that part. Before they can give Jade the potion to remove her evil seal, the evil takes over and we see Jade now as Queen of the Shadow Khan. It's kind of funny because she's still Jade. Like, we see her sit on a throne trying to read this big ancient book, but she's still a child.
Shu, we. How can I know the secrets of the archive if I can't understand a single stupid word of it?
I think the power dynamic's really interesting, because we see Shendu and the Dark Hand actually transport to Section 13 for the first time in the show, and Shendu even pays his respects to her. Like, this is the only time we see Shendu yield to someone, besides when his spirit was being attacked and tormented by his demon siblings. Jackie's unsuccessful in getting the potion to Jade, but finds an opening when she's angered and distracted that Shendu's betraying her by stealing the book. Now that Jackie's removed the seal, all the ninjas that were working for Jade are now in a deadlock controlled by Shendu and Jade, who want them to attack each other, but Jade commands them to destroy the book. So the demon archive gets destroyed, and Jade's freed from the evil, teaching us the most important lesson of all. Don't get a tattoo, cause you might just get a demon seal instead. The question of the day is, what does Jackie like to read? He said he likes to read mystery and comedy, but even stuff like magazines helps, and sometimes he uses the pictures for location scouting for movies and stuff. So let's move on. In episode 7, the Dark Hand sees the next demon portal is up in space and goes to Cape Canaveral in order to catch a rocket to space to unseal the moon demon. We have another funny subversion of Jade tagging along here, because they tell Jade they're on their way to a boring feng shui conference up in Minnesota, which is a lie, but they gotta make it sound as boring as possible so Jade doesn't want to tag along for a change. And it actually works, but Jade then sees Jackie and the Dark Hand on TV when the news report shows a rocket soon to take off in Florida, and Jade uses the rabbit talisman to get there ASAP. We see the Dark Hand and Jackie on the rocket ship, and when Valmont comes to his senses, he asks the pilot of the rocket ship to turn this thing around, revealing the only other living thing on the ship, at least for now, is a monkey named Cosmo, to the horror of everyone. Well, except Ratso. So the episode is an interesting combo of outer space hijinks and horror in a way. Like, there's a big tension to hiding in a rocket in outer space where one wrong move could easily kill you, and we have this pretty funny fight between Jackie and Hawk Fu out in space where their actions are slowed by gravity, and we see Hawk Fu use more slow motion animal moves.
Tiger prowls through pudding. Yeah. Turtle fist.
Or when the monkey steals the magic box.
Flying monkey snatches magic box.
The portal opens and we see the moon demon arrive, a master of gravity, and this is where the more space horror elements come out, not only running from this demon while trapped in this rocket, but the demon begins to shift the moon out of the Earth's orbit in order to ravage the Earth's surface. Uncle sends Toru to space to relay the ingredients needed for the chi spell, an enchanted lotus pod, but when Jackie confronts the demon out in space, the lotus is stuck inside Jackie's suit. So Jackie makes one final desperate attempt, removing his air tube in order to shoot the lotus at the moon demon, sealing him away. Jade's happy because her science project she was struggling with now has great material to work with, I guess if anyone believes her, and overall it's a fun episode because of the great location of outer space and the tension that ensues. The setting is so unique and makes everything pretty uneasy, but the more I watch this season, the less I'm enthralled by this new Villain of the Week format. I feel like last season had a little more focus on the subplot of the episodes, but I feel like there's such a formula that needs to be followed this season. Finding the new portal location, traveling there and fighting over the box, summoning the demon and fighting the demon to seal it away. So while I feel there's not a whole lot of time for them to stretch their legs and go over some finer details like Jade's science project for instance, it also feels like we lost a lot of the choreographed combat from season 1. These demons are just too big and powerful to fight for real, which is really cool in some ways, but I'm personally much more drawn even to a standard episode of season 1, like where Jackie got turned into rock. It has a nice story of debating whether to trade the talismans for Jackie's life or not, and there's plenty of hand-to-hand and talisman combat throughout. Anyways, the question of the day is, what would Jackie do if he wasn't acting? And Jackie says he'd be a pilot and he'd love to fly and see different locations all over the world. I feel like this is a pretty fitting question for this episode where he goes to space and flies over the world, so it's kind of funny to see here. Let's move on. Episode 8, Jackie finds the armor of the 8 immortals, and we learn that Uncle is keeping everyone up and going kinda crazy because he can't sleep thinking so much about the chi spells. So everyone's in Spain since this is where the Earth Demon portal is, and they keep wondering what Spain is famous for. When Jackie fights the enforcers over the magic box, we get a pretty entertaining scene where they all fight for the box, but it's cut short because the running of the bulls makes its way through. Jade and Toru cast a deep sleep spell on Uncle, and when Jackie needs his help for a chi spell for the Earth Demon, Jade's unable to wake him up anymore.
We should have forced Uncle to count sheep.
Wait a second. The only reason why you know about the sheep and counting sheep is because you saw season 2 and I didn't yet. I'm unapologizing now. They use a deep sleep spell on Uncle, and he's just incredibly chill now, and he tells Jade she needs, quote, a hair of you, and that she also needs a flower as a symbol of the immortal who defeated the Earth Demon originally. Uncle says he'll get the rest of the materials after his nap, and we see Jackie fighting the giant Earth Demon using the armor of the gods, which, fun fact, is a reference to the Jackie Chan movie Armor of God, a movie Jackie Chan directed, wrote, and starred in 1986. Jade, Toru, and Uncle get to Spain, and Uncle's still asleep. Jade and Toru try to recite the chi spell, but it doesn't work because Uncle told Jade she needs hair of you, which isn't you as in her, but you as in a female sheep. So they seal the demon away, and Jade says she likes her cranky old grandpa, who's helpful and smart, more than the sleepy chill grandpa. This is probably my least favorite episode so far. Even though it had some funny moments, like with the sheep, it's just a bit too formulaic for me now. But it does have some pretty funny moments, almost too subtle to go into detail here with, like how Ratso gets kinda offended that Hakufu takes the magic box from him, and we just see the two fight back and forth over it as Jackie watches. The question of the day is, how much does Jackie exercise each day? He says when he's filming all day he works out an hour at least, but other days he probably works out at least 3 hours. Jackie says, however, the most important thing is diet, which is pretty interesting to hear, so let's move on. Episode 9 starts with the Chans in Boston at a Red Sox game where they believe the next portal will open soon. The portal opens up on the woman's bathroom door, summoning the Sky Demon. As Jade leaves the bathroom, she sees the Sky Demon outside and slams his tail in the door, cutting it off, but allowing him to fly off before the chi spell can seal him away. Back at the antique shop, they summon a spell that won't allow the Sky Demon within their range unless he's invited in, which is a pretty old trope, and nowadays I'd say it's most associated with vampires, like how they can't enter the room unless they're invited in, and I guess this Sky Demon's pretty vampire-like in nature. His colors and wings are very bat-like, so we see him transform into a new kid at Jade's school while also feigning as the only person to believe Jade about her bouts with ninjas and demons and stuff. He befriends Jade in order to get his tail back, and when he does, he flies off with Uncle, demanding him to remove the spell Uncle put on his tail. It's really funny that we see the demon holding Uncle over the edge of a building, and Uncle stands on business here.
Now remove your spell from my tail, or you will wish you had wings.
What is hexed cannot be unhexed.
Then cast another spell. Ow!
How can I cast a spell without my spell books?
The combat in this episode is really cool, with Jackie fighting the enforcers and Jade using the talismans to fly away while being chased by the Sky Demon, and they eventually enchant the tail, attaching it back to the demon and sealing him back in the demon portal, saving the day. Jade is sad that her friend turned out to be a demon, one of the only people that actually listens and believes her, but Jade also realizes Toru is a great friend who listens to her, giving him half of the friendship necklace. And this is animated so well, it's kinda crazy. Like, seeing the necklace struggle to get over his big head and neck is such a nice touch. Overall, a pretty decent episode, and I love that it has a nice balance of the plot of Jade's loneliness and new friend, as well as the combat that has tons of different aspects. like the air fight between Jade and the demon, or Jackie fighting all the enforcers, Uncle nearly falling to his death a few times too. The question of the day is, what does Jackie like on his pizza? And Jackie says the only pizza he likes is pepperoni, and he only likes it hot and well done. I kinda thought he'd say something like Hawaiian. I don't know, he strikes me as a pineapple on pizza guy. But at the same time, it makes sense he'd like his pizza as basic as possible. Which leads me to the question, is pepperoni pizza more basic than just cheese pizza? Cause like, if pepperoni is more popular, that would make it more basic, right? I'm gonna have to think about that one a little more, so let's move on. Episode 10 starts with the last demon sorcerer, the Demon of Water, being released in the Roman Colosseum. We see them get into a moped chase with her, and she's somewhat immortal, as we see her get hit by a truck and she can just form into water and back into her demon form, eventually escaping away into a drain. Uncle tells them this demon's finding her ruined empire of Atlantis, so like Shaolin Showdown, Atlantis just canonically exists here. Valmont and Shendu fight over his body, as we see Valmont now has green skin and a horn, and Valmont can't really fight Shendu about this, so he decides to grab the magic box, and the good magic in it knocks Shendu out of him. Valmont takes this opportunity to ask the Chans for help, and they're reluctant to believe Valmont, but he says they'd all be better off without Shendu. In addition to this, the water demon plans to flood San Francisco and reclaim her lost empire of Atlantis. Valmont's kind of reunited with Toru, warning Jackie that he's changed sides once, he might just do it again, and Toru's like, bro, you made me fight a demon. They pursue the demon into the subway station, where they see her reciting a spell to unleash a flood and a subsequent earthquake, and Toru and Jackie try to stop her, but are too late. We see the subway begin to fill with water, and Valmont's told to watch Jade, and he's arguably one of the strongest characters in the whole show, for being able to do this task no one else has been able to do so far. Toru and Jackie try to reclaim the gourd needed to summon the chi spell to seal away the water demon, and as the water continues to rise, Valmont steps in to help, but the water washes off the seal containing Shendu within Valmont. So the episode ends with Shendu and the water demon retreating just before Uncle can seal them away. With these two demons escaped and the flooding of the city averted, the Chans walk off to go get pancakes, which Jade accidentally calls pankus, like the box. The subway's actually a really cool setting for the combat here, and seeing how the fight changes with the rising water and Valmont's debate whether to help Shendu or Jackie is pretty interesting. So before we see how this plot plays out, the question of the day is if Jackie's a good swimmer. Jackie says he's kind of a bad swimmer and sort of scared of it, so let's move on. Episode 11 starts with the Chans pursuing the water demon as she attempts to create a tsunami in the middle of the bay. We see Jade snuck onto the boat to record this for a reality TV show she wants to make, and they manage to seal the demon back into the portal here. Unfortunately, Jade gets sucked in too, being trapped in the netherworld now. They fear Jade is lost forever, but Uncle formulates a plan to find the 8th and final demon portal door in the Dark Hand hideout and rescue Jade before she's sealed away permanently. We see Jade hiding among the demons as they hold a council discussing what to do about Shendu, who hasn't properly rescued them yet. Jackie steals the Panku box from Shendu and Hakfu, and they're on a flight to China to save Jade from the netherworld. We see Jackie messing around with the Panku box, and Toru falls asleep leaning over onto him, and like, if we're the only people in a big flight and you sit next to me, I'd be so mad. Get your own row. Uncle enters a trance to talk to Jade in a netherworld, and he tells her only one being can exit the portal, and that has to be her. We've seen Shendu lie and bargain with his siblings that he'll find a way out for all of them, and Uncle says this must be a lie about the 8th portal. Uncle also asks Jade for her advice on the puzzles because she's probably good at them, and she tells Uncle to look into the trigrams on the box, and that these must be the key. This allows them to open the box, revealing the location of the portal in Hong Kong, which just so happens to be at Hong Kong's Moose World, which also happens to be the amusement park we saw last season when Jade was possessed by Shendu. Meanwhile, in the netherworld, the demons find Jade, and she cleverly gets them all to turn on each other, fighting for the one spot out of the portal. Hakfu steals the Panku box, but Uncle passes Jackie a sword to banish Shendu back to the netherworld, and Jade manages to escape out of the portal in the chaos of all the demons fighting each other to get out. So they end the episode with the Chans reunited, enjoying their day in Moose World, and Valmont celebrates getting his body back. And while all might seem well, Shendu has one final trick up his sleeve, so we'll see how this plays out in the 2-part season finale. The question of the day is if Jackie plays any instruments. He says he plays the harmonica and the Chinese guitar, and he also says he sings. So here's a clip of Jackie Chan singing Elvis on David Letterman in 1998.
Wise men say only fool rush in. but I can't help falling in love with you.
Episode 12 starts with the Chans visiting Jade's family in Hong Kong, which is the first time we actually get to see them in the show.
Uncle!
Is Uncle everyone's uncle?
He's actually our cousin. Aren't you?
Okay, so his name is just Uncle. He's their cousin, maybe? And his birth name is just Uncle, I guess. In the Netherworld, Shendu says he has one last plan to release the demons to get the Book of Ages, which can alter the fabrics of reality. And while it's risky, they're pretty desperate, so we see Shendu possess Jackie while they're having tea with Jade's family. And I'm probably missing something here, you know I'm known to do that, but this feels like it was so easy to do. I know Shendu possessed Valmont accidentally, but is it really this easy for him to just leave Valmont and possess Jackie now instead? So Jackie ends up getting possessed and jumps out the window, which Jade's parents tell her she shouldn't be staying with this crazy man who just jumps out windows any longer. Jackie calls Jade and tells her that Shendu's possessing him and taking him to Australia, which we know is to obtain the Book of Ages. So we see Jade, Uncle, and Toru try to prevent Shendu/Jackie from writing in the Book of Ages, but they're too late. We see Jade teleport to an alternate timeline where Shendu rewrote the past, and the world is now ruled by demons, with the 8 demons we saw throughout the season ruling over their new domains. Jackie thinks Jade's crazy for insisting that humans used to rule the world, but she proves she's from an alternate timeline by clicking her watch, which Jackie thinks is some form of magic, which is banned in this timeline. We learn the only reason why Jade still has her memories is because she has the page of the book that talks about Jade helping fight evil, so her history didn't get rewritten here. We see the Dark Hand Enforcers have all become jesters for Shendu, which is pretty funny. Like, he's been so annoyed by them throughout the series so far, this is the only way he can get revenge. Jade convinces Jackie he's not a slave and gets him to help her rewrite the Book of Ages, but Jade's watch scares Uncle, alerting the Shadowkhan. Jackie says he doesn't know martial arts because they're banned, but he knows how to run, so we see them run off being chased not only by the ninjas, but these other fire-breathing dragons until they're trapped back in the other room with Uncle. Uncle uses a chi spell to get rid of the shadow ninjas again, and they try to take the talismans from Shendu using the same magic bomb Jackie used at the end of season 1 to extract the talismans from Shendu. But Shendu wakes up, and the episode ends with the screen fading to black and nothing but Shendu's red eyes glowing in the darkness, leading us to the finale of season 2. And I think this same ending happened at the end of season 1, funnily enough. So before we get into the final episode, we get Jackie's question of the day, which is just asking Jackie if he speaks other languages. I don't know what languages Jackie's actually fluent in because he just lists off like 10 languages and says a basic phrase in each.
Spanish, ¿Cómo estás? Morocco, salam alaikum, malaikum salam. Russia, Nyam Paplim.
Which is definitely impressive, but after watching this video of Jackie Chan speaking 9 languages, I feel like the main consensus is that Jackie's fluent in Cantonese, Mandarin, and English. But maybe he's more fluent in others than I know. So let's move on. In episode 13, we see that Jackie's safe from the impending fire from Shendu because he's holding the dog talisman of immortality. The Chans run off with about half of the talismans, escaping on a carpet they use the talismans to turn into a speeding flying carpet. They decide the only way to fight Shendu will be to reassemble the J-Team, so we see them go out to recruit Toru, who has no memory of them in this timeline. The large mountain demon gal rules over Toru here, and Jackie stalls her long enough so that Uncle can recite the chi spell and seal her away once again. El Toro Fuerte is more of a gladiator in this context, and they seal away the Wind Demon, recruiting El Toro back to the J-Team. Finally, we see Vipers locked away in a cage, and the Sky Demon Bat Guy is sealed away. There's a more elaborate fight against the Thunder Demon who wasn't really accounted for in this plan, and Uncle doesn't have castanets to help seal the Thunder Demon away, but fortunately Paco, the kid who's El Toro's superfan, happens to have a pair in his pocket, allowing them to seal away the Thunder Demon. Shendu learns his siblings are being banished once again, and Jade's watch confirms that she must be from the original timeline. So the J-Team and the demons are all on a crash course back to Australia to fight for the Book of Ages once more. On the way there, Jade begins to teach Jackie martial arts sensibilities, like how to breathe properly, which comes in handy as they all run through the fortress searching for the portal to the Book of Ages. Jade and Uncle try to pinpoint the page that they can fix to restore the world, but they're pressed for time with Shendu looming right behind them. So they instead write their own history in the current timeline, making Jackie 20 feet tall and Toru into a superhero.
Say hello to Robo Viper.
Like nuking fish in a barrel.
Jade and Paco get distracted by making Jackie or El Toro bigger and stronger, calling back to their argument of which of their goats is better from season 1. And they finally write in that Uncle will banish the demons. So a portal opens up, sealing back all the demons, and they find the page that fixes the timeline back to normal. We see the Chans return back to Jade's apartment back in Hong Kong, only the whole Jade team is here this time. Jade's family says her time in America must be really paying off with Jackie's training, insinuating she can continue to stay with him. And Jackie says sometimes it's actually her who trains him, which is a pretty sweet touch to this story and the season. So that's how this season ends. And I think a lot of people like this season more than season 1. It definitely picked up more action, but I actually liked season 1 a little more. While the Talismans had a bit of Power of the Week format, I think season 2 became a Villain of the Week show much more in its format and structure. Granted, season 2 is actually 39 episodes, so a lot of the episodes that are more filler, quote unquote, I don't know if you can call cartoon episodes filler, but the goofier episodes play out a lot like the season 1 episode, like Toru's mother coming to visit, and Toru has something to prove to her, and it's just an overall silly episode with a really funny character being introduced here. So I definitely have to give season 2 a little more praise for being a balance of this canon story with a lot more silly episodes like this. Before we wrap this up with the final question of the day, I just want to give a quick shout out to everyone who donated to my Patreon and Ko-fi: Slake Nick, Buggy, Page 67, Paul H, PK Kirby, and Luca17. Y'all are all goated with the sauce. Thank you so much for helping me do this more regularly. And I wanted to also give a big shout out to Axkey for the incredibly generous super thanks on the first Jackie Chan video, because this was really amazing and one of the most generous things I've seen since starting my YouTube journey. So thank you very much. Jackie's question of the day is, what kind of martial arts do you know? Jackie says he knows a ton of forms of martial arts, but emphasizes its importance lies in discipline, not combat. I suppose this is a pretty important and fitting question for the season's canon ending, especially since we saw Jackie relearn a core part of martial arts from Jade within it. Thanks for watching the video, and I'd love to know what you want to see next. I might cover more Jackie Chan in the future, or I may cover some of the weirder Jackie Chan animated series in the future, because there's a couple out there that I've never heard of before working on this series. Alright, I'll talk to you next week. Bye!